Moving on to Debbie Evans. Debbie, I think you want to start off with a video.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. And yes, I'd like to show a piece of video. Senator Malcolm Roberts, how to question Pfizer. Listen out to what Pfizer employees received in the way of a jab. Let's watch the little video we've got.
Senator, Pfizer has had no involvement in relation to ivermectin.
Does the indemnity you have with the government extend to providing you with indemnity in the situation where an employee is forced by their employer to undergo vaccination and then experiences harm? And if you do have indemnity, I want the proof.
Senator, any indemnity agreements between Pfizer and the Australian government are confidential, and we are not able to discuss that in this forum.
Why are they confidential? Because as a taxpayer, I paid for those injections, even though I didn't take any. Why are they confidential from taxpayers? 26 million Australians.
Senator,
what are you hiding?
Senator, indemnity agreements between the Australian government and private organisations such as Pfizer are confidential. I'm not at liberty to discuss that.
Why are they confidential? The people who paid for these injections cannot see what they've actually bought. Why are they confidential? Why are you hiding?
Senator, those indemnity agreements, indeed contractual arrangements, as is always the case between the Australian government and external parties, are confidential, and I don't have any information today that might assist the committee in relation to that.
Did or does Pfizer have COVID vaccine mandates for your own employees in Australia?
At the height of the pandemic and consistent with guidance from health authorities, from the New South Wales and Victorian governments, Pfizer did have a colleague vaccination program for its employees.
Do you still have it?
That vaccine, the requirement for colleague vaccination for Pfizer employees is currently present. We introduced a colleague vaccination program in the interest of protecting the health and safety of our colleagues and the communities in which we serve, in which we operate.
We've read that your vaccine mandate was using your own batch of vaccine, especially imported for Pfizer, which was not tested by the TGA. Is that correct?
Senator, so Pfizer undertook to import a batch of vaccine specifically for the employee vaccination program, and that was so that no vaccine would be taken from government stocks that was being delivered to clinics as needed.
Thank you. Did you enforce your mandate on your colleagues, your employees? Did you enforce it? Did you sack anyone or refuse to pay anyone who refused to take the injection?
Senator, we aligned with the public health guidance. We permitted accommodations or exemptions for people that had specific medical or religious reasons that they did not or could not be vaccinated. A small number of colleagues departed the company.
So that's the way to speak to Pfizer. Alex, I think you want to add something here.
Indeed. Well, the first thing I'd say about that marvellous clip of Senator Malcolm Roberts is Pfizer has once again demonstrated when the going gets tough, you need a Scots lawyer to get you out of the hole. But it's not just Australia where these kinds of denouements are happening. Here we have the German Federal Health Ministry giving a written reply to a parliamentary question asked by Roger Beckamp of the AfD, Alternative for Germany party. Just given by the parliamentary undersecretary, who is a member of parliament but allied with the health ministry. He's replying. And as you can see, somebody's helpfully translated it in the inset. This is question 7/456 of last month. Does the German federal government have figures from placebo-controlled, randomized and blinded scientific studies that provide statistically significant evidence that subjects treated with your jab have overall suffered from fewer medically undesirable events than subjects who received the placebo, which was saline solution? If you have this evidence, or these figures, what are they? And what's the date of the most recent analysis of the numbers at which time the criteria of placebo-controlled, randomized and blinded trials were still met? Answer: no, the German government does not have such figures. So that hand-in-glove relationship between Pfizer, which insists there is private, and the governments of any Western countries needs further bottoming out. The show notes under this episode will have not just Senator Malcolm Roberts' video, more of that in extra time, but also Senator Gerard Rennick, who was pressing Pfizer on whether COVID spread as they had predicted in their alarmist predictions.
Well, thank you, Alex. And just staying with jabs, I just want to clarify a couple of things. So at the moment, we've got warnings out because there's a new COVID variant called EG 5.1, Eris. Eris in Greek apparently means strife, so not looking terribly good in that direction. It's just been announced that COVID jabs and flu jabs will not be offered to the under 65s. Those in care homes and those that are at clinical risk, frontline health workers and the immunosuppressed will be in line first, and they'll be the only ones to receive the free jabs. However, pregnant women will also be eligible. Now, if you are eligible for jabs, which some people are seemingly very keen to have, you'll be able to have both jabs together this year. The NHS have announced it. Or can you? We'll come to that in a minute. Children will not be offered COVID jabs. That's very important to note for something else that's coming on later in this segment. And adults who haven't yet received any COVID injections will also be eligible for the jab. With flu, they seem to want to concentrate on the most vulnerable first. So let's start with flu. And there's a new flu vaccination program starting for schools, primary schools and secondary schools. But I'm just going to focus on primary schools for now. So all primary school children will be offered the nasal vaccine. It looks like children are going to have to protect the elderly again because they play a key part in transmission. So it looks like the children are the firewall, the human shield, if you like. But who benefits? Well, the school benefits, actually. And if you just click onto the next slide, you can see the benefits to the school there. I'm not going to read them all out. And it also gives an idea of how a parent or parental guardian consent will be obtained. So you will receive a leaflet. Moving on, it says also you can refuse, parents can refuse. Please know this because vaccination squads are going to come into schools and you might not know the day, you might not know quite what's going on. Parents and guardians can refuse to have their child vaccinated. And you might just notice at the bottom there, it says a little caveat there. If your child becomes unwell in school after receiving the vaccination, this is what to do. So please watch out for the flu jabs. Now I'm going to stay with jabs and an amazing article, an excellent article on the Hart website from Dr. Ros Jones, who's a retired paediatrician. And you thought COVID vaccines were for children were over. Now this is about the NextCOVE trial. And I've just said there are no COVID injections for children. They're not going to be rolled out this year. So why do we need to have a trial? So Dr. Jones has done this very good article, and she says that basically they're going to be trialing two types of Moderna vaccines for a booster. So this is going to be the original Moderna and a new Moderna, a 50-50 mix. She also says, if we just click to the next slide, that's it. She says there, right at the top, the trial information leaflet does not mention any direct benefits to the recipients. The aim of the study being to learn more about how it works in the body. I mean, this is not in the best interests, obviously, of the children at all. But what's in it for the children if there's no benefit to them? Well, actually, this is £1,500 on completion of the study. And very concerning because with the cost of living at the moment, many parents are struggling to put food on the table for their families. So I think Dr. Jones's last line on her article was very appropriate. Let's hope parental instincts are more alive than the moral compasses of the trust CEOs. £1,500 will seem like a paltry sum if your child loses this abhorrent game of Russian roulette. So that's the NextCOVE trial. Staying again with vaccines, I want to thank Sally very much indeed for her email. she sent me an email with regards to her stepmother, who's a retired nurse and 90. She had her 5th COVID jab. It was the Sanofi one, the one that we featured in a couple of newses ago. She had a terrible inflammatory reaction with an itchy rash appearing all over her body, which drove her almost insane with discomfort and the need to scratch. She couldn't sleep, and the rash bled over her clothes and sheets. Whatever was suggested didn't work. But obviously now her daughter, who's a medical negligence lawyer, has done some research and discovered there was squalene, as we'd mentioned before, in the jab. Her stepmom won't be having any more jabs, but quite clearly we're seeing serious adverse reactions already with this injection. So I wanted to take a little bit of a better look at it. So I went straight to the JCVI. Now, they don't publish their minutes for quite a while after their meetings, but they published their minutes. This was in February, and it was the advice. And they only meet teleconference. So this is all done over teleconference. All these decisions are made. So they decided to review the Sanofi GSK Prevacine Beta COVID-19 booster vaccine. They had Sanofi there as representatives, and they also had the Finnish to represent. No one decided to name GA. If you just click on a slide, so that's who was in attendance there. So you can see that Professor Wei Shen Lim, but down I've just highlighted there the representatives of Sanofi GSK. They weren't mentioned. We don't know who they were, so it's all very secretive and confidential. So what has actually the MHRA said about this new booster? Well, the MHRA summarised the current regulatory perspective on the AS03 adjuvant. Now, this AS03 adjuvant is very important because it was a component of the Pandemrix. Do you remember that vaccine back in 2009 that caused all sorts of side effects, in particular narcolepsy? So this injection has got that same ingredient. They ask the questions, but they didn't seem to get many answers. The safety concerns are identical to those that were seen before, but nobody's answering any questions. And actually, the MHRA asked more questions about this injection. They asked if it was compatible with other injections, because seemingly other people have had lots of different injections, whether it's a mRNA or whether it's a viral vector. But actually, what they're asking here is it okay to give this injection after someone's had, and that's Novavax, they're talking about the Novavax primary course. And clearly, due to a lack of data, even the MHRA couldn't comment on the likely efficacy and safety of it. So, we're already doomed because now the MHRA aren't even being answered their questions. Also in that meeting, the vaccine supply was talked about, but again, it wasn't recorded in the minutes as it was commercially sensitive information. And we had a team from Finland too there presenting on narcolepsy. So I'm very concerned that this injection is being rolled out with pretty much no safety data at all. But please watch this space, and I'm hoping to get some more expert advice on it in the very near future.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Thank you very much, Debbie, for that. We'll go on to the ads break now. We're asking you to support the UK call, and if that means, if you possibly can, we've missed some graphics. Oh, there, I'm very sorry about that. But if you can support us online, share our material and visit our shop, that would be lovely. We've got an advert here for the next interview. This is going out on Thursday with Gemma Cooper. A conversation on life after the BBC. There is, you'll be pleased to know, life after the BBC. And we'll also be talking to Katie Hopkins, that one broadcast on Tuesday next week. Back to Debbie now.